Now that it's been about a month since the Raja Jackson attack on Psycho Stu, that was big news, even mainstream news for a couple weeks there, but it's totally faded now, and it appears like a payoff was made or something, and no charges are going to be pressed. But another situation where I don't know. I think Rene, maybe considering his career wasn't that long in WWE, I know he saved what money he made well, and he inherited money from his dad, so he never has to work again with the investments he's made. But if he had sued WWE over this, I mean, I think he could have made a lot of money. And if it had been done during the cell phone camera era, there would have been a punishment for it. I've known Rene Dupree since 2001. I did not like him when I met him in 2001. I thought he was extremely arrogant. But then when I was getting WWE extra jobs, he was one of the people that were nice to me backstage. Then I met him again in 2008 in England when I lived in the same house with them, and I really didn't like him overall. I didn't like him. We were not to the point of blows or anything, but I at that point he was going through demon time, and we were all miserable in England. So I can't say I liked him at all in 2008. And I wrestled in tag teams and stuff with him. I liked wrestling against him. I do think he's as a wrestler, he's tough. He's not going to care about stiff shots. He's just going to give you a stiff receipt back. He's not really much of a hardcore wrestler, but he'll do hardcore stuff here and there. He really has a passion for wrestling. Has he ever been in a real fight? I heard another friend of mine, Brody Steele from the Maritimes, got into a small altercation with him at a bar once during another period of time where I guess Rene was going through some issues, according to reports, and it was broken up. There was no real winner or loser. I don't know if there was punches thrown or if it was just a shoving match. Now, what happened was, I guess there's various versions of this story. But I'll just say I could see how he can rub people the wrong way, and I wouldn't even consider him a friend since he broke the bro code with me. He did something that you just don't do to a friend, and I'll never think of him as a friend after that. I'll be cordial to him, but and I would like around that time where he did that to me, I would have actually fought him. But now years have gone by, and I don't care anymore. But I wouldn't trust him. I definitely wouldn't trust him. Bob Holly, I've met. He seemed like a very quiet guy every time I've met him. He didn't seem like a friendly guy, but he seems about like how he comes across. Like I didn't have the. I've met him a couple times. Uh, didn't have any other than he's quiet and not talkative. He's as you would expect him to be. The times I've met him. They're both close to the same size. When this happened, Rene was only 19 or 20, and Bob Holly, I believe, was in his 30s, much more experienced. And basically, from what I understand, what happened, I'll give you the I've heard both sides of it, but something along the lines of he was traveling with Bob. There was an issue with a parking ticket where Bob Holly apparently had to go back to the town where Rene had got a parking ticket and not paid the parking ticket, where he had apparently told Bob he was going to pay the parking ticket and didn't, and Bob had to go back and go to court in the town over the parking ticket. And back in those days, there was no 350,000 minimum pay in WWE in those days. You got paid off the house. So it was a real pain in the ass. I don't think the Kurt Angle story was fully true because it happened during a match where Kurt's version of it, Bob ran out after the match. This was in November 2004. Where the true part is, and both Renee said this and Holly said in his book, that the day or two before on the airplane, it was either JBL or Bob Holly, because they were both like JBL was bullying Rene at that time apparently too, as he would do. It was a different environment backstage. The wrestlers are very coddled now. There was no AEW at this point, no WCW. Wrestlers were very protective of their spots, and you were, unless you were like a Randy Orton, you were bullied when you came in. And even Harry Smith had to go through some hazing. JBL made comments about his dead father, for crying out loud, in the ring. There was like public again. Even this was public hazing. So basically, Bob Holly, he didn't necessarily say when it was going to happen, but he basically shot on Rene in the match. According to most reports, Rene went backstage to retreat, and then Bob Holly attacked him again backstage. And the Big Show eventually separated it. And supposedly, Bob had to pay a $10,000 fine to WWE for this. Apparently, Johnny Ace was okay with the beating. I've been told by numerous people nothing like that happened. Nothing JBL or Bob Holly did was done without the Undertaker's approval. Apparently, anything done around this time, you would have to ask the Undertaker's permission for it. So he obviously gave the okay for it, or if it wouldn't have happened. And and now the Undertaker's a whipped bitch. I'll just say that. He's fucking pathetic now, how he comes across. But yeah, how would they do in a real fight? Because Rene, I guess, has said he'd challenge him since. I guess Bob says since Rene has said that he's going to challenge him, Bob claims that he's confronted Rene at conventions and Rene's acted like he never said anything. I, I don't know. I would tend to believe that because at one point I did 2 events in MMA cages, and what happened was one of them I was telling Rene, hey, why don't I put you against Bob Holly in an MMA cage? So, I mean, he won't have any weapons in there and you guys can settle it for real. And he was saying like he wanted to do it. And then after a few weeks, as I was looking for how to contact Bob Holly about it, he changed his mind about wanting to do it. So I do think Rene's tough in a wrestling way, but I think Bob has been in more fights, and Bob is just more of a rough and tumble guy than Rene is. So although I do think Rene would do a lot more if Bob had tried. I don't even think Bob would try that to him now. But if they were in like a boxing or MMA situation, I do think Bob would win, honestly. And I do think, but I think Rene should have sued him, and I think Bob should have been more of a man about it and done like what Billy Jack Haynes and Mike Sharp did. Hey, let's fight. Don't get the guy in the ring in front of the public. And then bring a chair into the whole thing. Fight like a man. That's the other thing. I do think Rene is way better than a lot of these like these horrible Quebec wrestlers that are in AEW. Like what's his name? The Dark Order guy. One of them's been fired, but there's still the fat one with the mask is still there. And there's Magic something and a couple more. There's some really bad. No, even the Dynamite Kid's nephew. Like, how long has he had a contract for, and they've done nothing with him? Rene would be better than all those guys. Like, I mean, I don't hate him. I mean, I've used him on a Great North Wrestling event since I found his disrespectful thing that he did to me, which I won't talk about publicly. But yeah, let me know who you think would win in the comments.